I want you to try something for me. Just look at the text on your screen or a street sign, even a label on a water bottle. Just look at the letters.
Okay.
We usually think of those little squiggles as tools, right? Like a hammer or a screwdriver. Purely functional. We use them to record speech so we don't forget it.
Sure.
But what if I told you that it's actually a map?
A map.
Yeah, a map of the human mind. The idea is that the way we scribble lines on a page actually reveals deep, intuitive secrets about how our brains process language.
Secrets we might not even know we know.
Exactly.
It is certainly a shift in perspective. Usually when we talk about the history of writing, it's treated as this timeline of technology.
Right, from cave paintings to computers.
We started with cave paintings, then hieroglyphs, then the alphabet, and we generally pat ourselves on the back for becoming more advanced. But the source material we're covering today just flips that narrative completely.
This is Writing as Native Speaker Analysis by Peter T. Daniels. And the mission for this deep dive is to really unpack that title. We aren't just looking at the ABCs. We're exploring the idea that every time someone invented a script,
Whether it was an ancient Sumerian accountant or a Cherokee blacksmith,
they were actually performing complex linguistic analysis. They were breaking their language down into parts, long before the field of linguistics even existed.
that is the core argument. Daniels suggests that writing systems are native speaker analyses. They show us what the speaker intuitively understands about the structure of their own language.
And the results can be pretty surprising.
Oh, they are. We're going to see how a listening comprehension error by some Greek merchants gave us vowels, how the shape of your mouth might determine the shape of your letters, and why the absolute chaos of English spelling might actually be smarter than we give it credit for.
I like the sound of that, especially the English spelling part, because I am still relying on autocorrect way too much. But let's start at the beginning, or rather with the inventors. Daniels throws out this term, grammatogeny.
It is a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? Grammatogeny.
A little.
It simply means the creation of a writing system. And Daniels divides this into two very distinct categories: sophisticated and unsophisticated.
Now, unsophisticated sounds a little harsh.
It does.
It sounds like we're judging their table manners or something.
I know it sounds judgmental, but in this context, it isn't an insult to their intelligence. It refers to their background. An unsophisticated inventor is someone who is literate in no language.
So they know writing exists.
Maybe they've seen other people doing it, but they have absolutely no idea how the mechanism works.
So they're flying completely blind. They're inventing the concept of reading and writing from scratch.
Exactly. And the prime example Daniels uses is Sequoyah. He was a Cherokee man living in the early 19th century. A silversmith, a blacksmith, just a brilliant guy.
And he saw white settlers using what he called talking leaves.
Talking leaves, yeah. Pieces of paper with marks on them. He knew those marks carried a message, but he didn't know the code.
I can't even imagine how difficult that would be. I mean, where do you even start? Do you just start drawing a picture for every single word?
Well, that is exactly what he tried first. He sat down and attempted to create a unique symbol for every single word in the Cherokee language.
That sounds completely impossible. Think about how many words we use, in a single day.
It's cognitive overload.
You'd need a dictionary the size of a house.
And a memory to match.
Yeah.
Imagine trying to remember 10,000 unique abstract squiggles. One for tree, one for run, one for running, one for runner.
It's not scalable.
Not at all. And Sequoyah realized pretty quickly that this approach was a dead end.
So he hit a wall. What was the breakthrough?
He stopped listening to the words and started listening to the sounds. He analyzed his own speech, and he realized that while there are thousands of words, there are only a limited number of sound combinations that make them up.
Syllables.
Specifically, syllables.
He broke Cherokee down into consonant-vowel pairs.
Like ma, pa, si, do, precisely. And that resulted in the Cherokee syllabary. It has 85 characters. It's not an alphabet like we use, but it works perfectly for the language. And within months, thousands of Cherokee were literate.
That's incredible.
But the key insight here isn't just that he succeeded. It's what his success tells us about the human brain.
Because he didn't go for individual letters, right? He didn't invent a K and an A. He invented K-A.
That is the critical point. Sequoyah proves that for a human being with no outside training, the most accessible, natural unit of speech is the syllable. We don't naturally hear individual letters.
Right.
If I say cat, you hear one beat. You don't naturally parse it as C-A-T unless you've been taught to do that.
So when we invent writing from scratch,
We almost always invent syllabaries.
which explains why the ancient systems, Sumerian, Chinese, Mayan, all look the way they do.
It connects them all. Daniels categorizes those ancient inventions as unsophisticated in the same sense as Sequoia. The Sumerians and the Chinese created characters that represented syllables with meaning. They didn't do this because they were primitive. They did it because that is how the human brain naturally perceives language.
Okay, so if you leave a human alone, they invent syllables. But Daniels contrasts Sequoia with this guy, James Evans. He's the sophisticated example. What makes him so different?
James Evans was a missionary among the Cree in Manitoba around the same time as Sequoia. But unlike Sequoia, Evans was already literate. He was English, he knew shorthand, and he understood phonetics. He knew how the machine worked.
So he wasn't guessing. He brought a toolkit.
Right. And you can see it in the script he created. The Cherokee script, it looks a bit chaotic. Sequoia borrowed shapes from English books but gave them totally different values.
But the Cree script,
It looks like a geometry problem.
how does that?
It is incredibly systematic. Evans realized the language had a consistent pattern. So he used a simple shape, like a triangle, to represent a consonant sound.
Okay.
Let's say a triangle is the T sound. If you rotate the triangle so it points up, it's T. Point it down, it's T. Point it right, too.
That is wildly efficient. It's like a code.
It is a code, and that is sophisticated grammatogeny. It required an analytical understanding of phonetics, separating the consonant from the vowel that Sequoia didn't have.
Right, because Sequoia treated ma and me as totally different things.
Exactly. Totally different sounds requiring totally different symbols. Evans understood they shared a common M sound.
So intuition gives you syllables. Science gives you phonetics.
In a nutshell, yes.
Yeah.
But that covers invention. The history of writing gets really messy and really fascinating when we start looking at how scripts travel. Daniels argues that some of the biggest leaps in writing history weren't purposeful inventions at all.
They were accidents.
Total accidents.
This brings us to the transmission by misunderstanding part of the article. And I have to say, the idea that our alphabet is basically the result of a game of telephone gone wrong is, well, it's humbling.
It is a great reminder that progress isn't always planned. Let's look at the Egyptians. We often think of hieroglyphs as this mysterious, unique picture language.
Sure.
But the Egyptians actually got the idea of writing from the Sumerians.
But they didn't copy the wedge shapes. They kept their picture.
They did, but here is the glitch. In Sumerian, a word like king always sounded the same. So one sign equaled one sound and one meaning. But Egyptian is related to Semitic languages.
Okay.
It has what linguists call internal flexion.
Whoa, hold on. Internal flexion.
I know, it sounds technical.
It sounds like a medical condition. Can you break that down for me?
Sorry. It's actually something you do every day. Think about the English word sing. Past tense is sang. Past participle is sung.
Sing, sang, sung. Okay. The consonants S and G stay the same, but the vowel in the middle changes.
Exactly. That is internal flexion. In Egyptian, this happened constantly. So imagine if they try to use a picture to represent the word sing. Which vowel does the picture represent? I-A-U.
It changes every time they use the word.
It changes every time. So the picture becomes useless for the vowel.
So they just dropped it.
Right. They stripped it down. They developed what Daniels calls a logo-consonantary script. They wrote the consonants and just ignored the vowels.
Logo-consonantary. Another big word. I'm guessing that means word consonant script.
You nailed it. It uses signs for words, but those signs only represent the consonant structure.
Wait, I have to stop you there.
Yeah.
Because I vividly remember learning in school about the hieroglyphic alphabet. You know, the bird is A, the foot is B.
Oh, no.
I bought a ruler with that on it at a museum gift shop.
I hate to tell you this, but that ruler is a lie. Or at least it's a modern myth. Daniels is very firm on this. The Egyptians never had an alphabet. Never. They had a list of signs that stood for single consonants, yes, but they never used them as a separate alphabet system to write out sounds. That is us projecting our modern understanding back onto them. They were writing words just without the vowels.
So they accidentally invented a consonant-only system because their grammar forced them to?
Exactly.
But the biggest accident has to be the Greeks, right? This is the story of how we got A, E, I, O, and U.
This is a pivotal moment in human history. Picture a port city around 800 BCE.
Yeah.
You have a Greek merchant watching a Phoenician trader keeping his books.
And the Phoenician is using a West Semitic script?
consonants only, just like the Egyptians eventually inspired.
So the Greek guy says, hey, that looks useful. Teach me how to do it.
Essentially. The Phoenician starts teaching him the letters. He points to the first letter and says its name. Aleph. Then the next one. He. Then. Yod.
Okay.
Now, here is the misunderstanding. Phoenician had consonants the Greek didn't have. Guttural sounds deep in the throat.
Sounds that a Greek ear wouldn't even register as consonants.
Exactly. Take Aleph. In Phoenician, it starts with a glottal stop, a little catch in the throat, like Aleph.
I barely heard anything there, just a little click.
Right. And the Greek merchant didn't hear the click at all. He just heard the vowel that came after it. The Phoenician said Aleph, and the Greek heard Aleph. He thought the name of the letter started with A.
Okay, I'm seeing where this is going now.
When the Phoenician said he, which is a breathy H sound, the Greek just heard E. When he said yod, which is like a Y, the Greek heard I.
That is incredible. So the Greeks, the philosophical heavyweights of antiquity, invented the alphabet because they had bad hearing.
It sounds reductive, but essentially, yes. They misheard the names of the letters and assumed they stood for the vowels. And here's the kicker. Greek needs vowels.
Oh, right.
You can't write Greek with just consonants. The words would be unrecognizable. So they kept the mistake. They accidentally invented the first full alphabet because they misunderstood the Phoenician consonant names.
So segmental phonology, understanding that speech is made of distinct vowels and consonants, was grasped by accident.
Daniels argues yes. It wasn't a stroke of genius. It was a listening comprehension error that turned out to be incredibly useful.
I will never look at the letter A the same way again. It's basically a typo that stuck for 3,000 years. But look, not every transmission was a mistake, right?
Not at all.
The outline mentions a southern route of transmission India, Tibet, Korea. Surely someone knew what they were doing.
Absolutely. This is where we see transmission by scholarship. Let's talk about India. They encountered the Aramaic script, but the Indian Pandits were already master grammarians. They had analyzed their languages, Sanskrit and Prakrit, down to the finest detail.
So they didn't just blindly copy.
No. They saw that Aramaic didn't fit their language. They had way too many vowels. But instead of just stealing letters like the Greeks, they invented a new system, the Abugida.
That's a fun word to say. Abugida. How is that different from an alphabet?
In an Abugida, the basic letter stands for a consonant plus a default vowel, usually A. If you want to change the vowel, you don't add a separate letter, you add a little mark and appendage or a matra to the main letter.
So it's more efficient.
It's highly logical. And they solved the problem of consonant clusters, like the straw in string, by physically stacking the letters on top of each other.
It's like Lego bricks for sound.
It shows a very deliberate analysis. But if we want to talk about the absolute pinnacle of deliberate analysis, the sophisticated champion, we have to talk about Korean Hangul.
Ah, Hangul. It's always the darling of linguists. Why is that? I mean, I've seen it. It looks like blocks of circles and lines. It doesn't look that different from Chinese characters at a glance.
It looks that way by design, to fit in aesthetically. But under the hood, it is radically different. It was created in 1446 by King Sejong and his scholars, and it is arguably the most scientific writing system ever devised.
What makes it scientific?
Well, remember how Sequoia listened to sounds? The Koreans went deeper. They analyzed the anatomy of the sound. The shapes of the letters are actually diagrams of your mouth.
Wait, you mean literally, the letter actually looks like a tongue?
Yes. Take the letter for the G or K sound. In Hangul, it looks like a sort of angled bracket. That shape depicts the root of the tongue, raising up to block the throat.
Goo.
Which is exactly what your tongue does when you say goo.
Goo, goo. Okay, I can feel the back of my tongue hitting the roof of my mouth. That's
right. Now take the letter for N. It looks like an L shape. That shows the tip of the tongue touching the upper gums behind your teeth.
Nin?
Nin.
Okay, that is mind-bending. It's like an instruction manual for your mouth, built right into the font.
And the letter for M is a square representing the closed lips. The inventors of Hangul didn't just hear the sounds. They analyzed the physiological mechanism of speech production. It shows that by the 15th century, Korean scholars had a phonological understanding that rivaled modern linguistics.
Centuries before Western science caught up.
Exactly.
That is sophisticated grammatogeny on steroids. Okay, so we've seen how scripts are born, either by intuition or science, and how they travel by accident or scholarship. But I want to pivot to the final part of our deep dive. What does the way we write today tell us about how we think?
This is where we see that writing isn't just recording speech. It filters it. It forces us to pay attention to certain parts of language and ignore others. Take Japanese, for example. We mentioned syllables earlier, but Japanese writing focuses on something called a mora.
A mora, not to be confused with the eel.
No fish involved here. A mora is a unit of timing. It's slightly different from a syllable.
How so? Give me an example.
Okay, take the word London. In English, that's 2 syllables. London. 2 beats.
Right. One. Okay.
But a Japanese speaker hears the rhythm differently because of their writing system. In Japanese script, the N sound at the end of a syllable gets its own character. It counts as a full beat.
Oh.
So London becomes Ron-and-don, 4 beats.
4 beats. Ron-don. That feels so slow to me.
But to a Japanese speaker, that is the rhythm of the language. The script forces the writer to analyze the timing of the beat in a way an English speaker never would.
So the writing system actually changes how you hear the music of the language. That is wild.
And then look at English. People love to complain about English spelling. I know you do.
Oh, constantly. Though, through, rough, cough, it's a disaster. Why can't we just spell things like they sound?
Well, Daniels points out that English spelling reveals a different kind of analysis. It's not trying to be a tape recorder for sound. It's preserving morphology, the grammar and history of the words.
Give me an example that justifies the madness.
The classic example is the ig ending for past tense. Think about the words heated, played, and walked.
Okay, heated, played, walked.
Now listen closely to the end of those words. Heated ends with an id sound. Heated, played ends with a t sound.
Plain and walk. Wait, walk T. It ends with a T sound.
Correct. 3 distinct sounds. A D, D, and T. If we were writing phonetically, we would spell them all differently. But we don't.
We write them all with id.
Yes.
Because they're all doing the same grammatical job.
Exactly. The writing system is prioritizing the grammatical fact, this is a past tense verb, over the phonetic reality of how your mouth moves. This is called morphophonemic spelling. It tells you the meaning first, sound second.
So when I get annoyed at English spelling, I should actually be appreciating it as a high-level grammatical analysis.
You could try. It certainly suggests that the chaos has a deep underlying logic. It connects words that are related in meaning, even if they've drifted apart in sound, like photograph and photography.
Oh, yeah.
The stress changes, the vowels change sound completely, but the spelling stays stable so you can see the connection.
That actually does make sense. It's prioritizing the history of the word over the sound of the moment.
Daniels also mentions that writing encodes social rules. We call this pragmatics.
Like how we use capital letters.
Yes. In German, every single noun is capitalized. It marks the substance of the sentence. In Japanese, there are special capital letters that are only used for names of respected people.
So the script forces you to decide, is this person important, before you even write their name?
Exactly. The writing system demands that you analyze the social context of your words. You can't just transcribe speech. You have to interpret the social hierarchy.
So we've gone from Cherokee blacksmiths finding syllables, to Greeks accidentally finding vowels, to Korean scholars mapping the human mouth, to us using an aid to mark grammar. It seems like the big takeaway here is that we should stop thinking of writing as just a neutral tool.
That is the lesson. Daniels argues that writing systems are successful because they match the intuition of the people using them. You often hear people say we should reform English spelling.
Make it perfectly phonetic, hooked on phonics style.
Fix the language.
Yeah.
But Daniels suggests that script reform is usually futile. The weirdness of a script often reflects a deep, native understanding of the language's structure. As he puts it, a writing system can only truly be understood through the pens of those who write it. It is a record of human thought.
I love that image. We aren't just writing, we're drawing a map of our own cognition.
And here's a final provocative thought for our listeners to mull over. We talked about how writing reveals our minds. But consider this. If we had never invented writing, if you never had that visual feedback loop, would we even know that our language had things like words or sentences?
That is actually kind of disturbing. You're saying that because I know how to write, I hear language differently than someone who can't.
It is very possible. Without writing, language is just a continuous stream of sound. Writing chops it up into boxes. So does writing record our language, or does it actually create our concept of it?
Wow.
It suggests that writing isn't just a mirror. It's a mold. It shapes the way you perceive the very thoughts in your head.
That is going to keep me up tonight. Does the word word exist without the word word? We'll leave you with that headache. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.